The CEO came home early and the maid whispered, "Stay quiet." What happened next left him speechless. "Don't make a sound." Grace's hand covered Nathan's mouth before he could react. Her wide eyes met his, filled with urgency, fear, and something he had never seen in this quiet woman who had cleaned his house for 3 years. Nathan Reed, 52, CEO of Reed Technologies, had just walked into his own mansion in Atlanta. New Year's Eve. He came home early to surprise his wife. No call, no message. He wanted to see her smile. Instead, his black maid was dragging him into a broom closet. "Grace, what?" "Sure." Her whisper cut like a razor. "If they hear you, you won't leave this house alive." Nathan felt the floor disappear beneath him. They? Who were they? Grace left a crack in the door. Just enough to see. Her body blocked Nathan, shielding him like a human barrier. Footsteps crossed the marble floor. Slow. Familiar. Too confident to belong to strangers. Nathan recognized the perfume before he saw the face. Chanel No. 5. The same one he'd bought for their wedding anniversary. Victoria. His wife of 15 years. She wore a tight red dress, as if she were heading to a party. Hair perfectly styled. Makeup flawless. Beside her, laughing softly with too much intimacy, was Daniel. Nathan's younger brother. The same brother he had saved from bankruptcy twice. The same one who had cried on his shoulder when he lost everything at the casino. Victoria rested her hand on Daniel's arm. Her fingers slid across his shirt fabric in a way that made Nathan's stomach turn. "He's still standing," Daniel said, shaking his head. "How is that possible? You said this week would be the last." Victoria sighed, visibly annoyed. "I doubled the dose this morning. In his green smoothie. That idiot drinks it without questioning." Nathan's legs nearly gave out. Grace gripped his arm tighter, anchoring him in place. The dizziness of recent weeks. The unexplained weakness. The mornings when he could barely get out of bed. The tests that showed nothing. He blamed work stress. He blamed age catching up. He blamed sleepless nights. He blamed anything but this. His own wife was poisoning him. Slowly. Methodically. With a smile on her face every morning. What if he doesn't come to the New Year's dinner? Daniel asked, looking around nervously. "He'll come." Victoria adjusted her hair in the hallway mirror, admiring her own reflection. Nathan never misses a party. Especially one he organized himself. And after the midnight toast. She made a casual gesture with her hand, like discarding trash. Heart attack. Tragic, unexpected, but not suspicious. His doctor already mentioned stress. No one will question it. Daniel smiled. And the inheritance? 70 million in the safe. Plus the stocks. Plus this house. Victoria turned to him and touched his face. "All ours, my love." Finally. Nathan felt bile rise in his throat. His hands were shaking. 15 years. 15 years sleeping next to a woman who was planning to kill him. 15 years trusting a brother who wanted to steal everything he had built. Grace squeezed his wrist even tighter. Her eyes, steady and dark, said everything without words. "Stay quiet, stay alive, it's not time yet." Victoria and Daniel walked toward the kitchen. Their laughter echoed down the hallway like nightmare music. The sound of a champagne cork popping came seconds later. They were celebrating. Celebrating his death. When silence returned, Grace finally released Nathan. He leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "Why?" His voice came out hoarse, broken. "Why are you doing this?" Grace didn't look away. "Because I saw Mr. Reed. For weeks. I saw her put white powder in your juice. I saw her hide vials in the back of the drawer. I saw her smile while you got weaker." Nathan swallowed hard. "And why didn't you go to the police?" "The police?" Grace almost laughed, but there was no humor on her face. "Captain Morrison has dinner here every month. He's your brother's friend. Who do you think they'll believe, a black maid or a billionaire's wife?" The truth hit Nathan like a punch. He looked at Grace. 3 years. 3 years she had cleaned his house, served his coffee, organized his closets, washed his clothes. 3 years she had been part of the furniture. He barely knew her last name. He barely looked her in the eyes. He never asked if she had family, dreams, fears. And now she was the only person in the world willing to save him. "I have proof," Grace said quietly, pulling a small plastic bag from her apron pocket. Inside was white powder. "I saved this from last week. From her bathroom trash. And I have more. Dates, times, what she put in and where." Nathan looked at the bag as if it were gold. "Why did you keep this?" Grace took a deep breath. "Because my brother died 5 years ago. They said it was an overdose. But I know it was his girlfriend. She did the same thing, small doses, every day, until his body couldn't take it anymore. No one believed me." Her eyes glistened. "When I saw what was happening here, I swore I wouldn't stay quiet again." Nathan Reed had built a technology empire. He had armed security, expensive lawyers, cameras in every corner of the property. His name was on buildings, in magazines, on billionaire lists. But the real danger slept next to him every night. Toasted with him at dinners. Said, "I love you" every morning. And the only person willing to face this threat was a woman he had treated as invisible. "What do we do now?" Nathan asked, and for the first time in decades, his voice sounded like someone asking for help. Grace put the bag back in her pocket. "First, we leave this house. No phone, no car, nothing they can track. Then we build the case. Step by step. Until there's no way out for them." She opened the closet door a crack and peeked out. "Now, Mr. Reed. Follow me. And do exactly what I say." If this story of betrayal and survival has captured your attention, subscribe to the channel to find out how Nathan escaped his own home, and why a maid risked everything for a man who never even learned her last name. Grace guided Nathan through the back hallways, the same one staff used to avoid bothering the employers. Ironic, Nathan thought. The invisible paths were now his only escape route. They exited through the service door. The cold December air hit Nathan's face like a slap. Grace pointed to an old sedan parked near the wall. "My car," she said. "No GPS, no luxury. Get in." Nathan hesitated, looking back. His mansion glowed with New Year's lights. Inside, his wife and brother were planning a toast to his death. "My phone," he said. "I need to call." "No." Grace was firm. "Victoria has access to your systems. She tracks your phone, your car, your cards. One call and they know where you are." "How do you know that?" Grace opened the car door. "Because I clean her office. I see the screens she leaves open. I hear the calls she makes when she thinks no one is paying attention." Nathan got in the car. The seat was hard, the smell was cheap disinfectant. Nothing like the Italian leather of his Mercedes. But for the first time in weeks, he felt safe. Grace drove through the streets of Atlanta. Christmas decorations still blinked on houses. Families walked on sidewalks. The world went on normally while Nathan's life crumbled. "Where are we going?" he asked. "To my aunt's house. She lives in a neighborhood people like you never visit. No one will look there." Nathan noticed the people like you, and said nothing. He deserved it. 20 minutes later, they stopped in front of a small house with a well-kept garden. An elderly woman waited on the porch, arms crossed. "Aunt Lorraine," Grace said as she got out. "He's the man I told you about." Lorraine looked Nathan up and down. "You're the billionaire who doesn't see what's happening under his own nose." Nathan lowered his head. "I am. At least you're honest." Lorraine opened the door. "Come in. Quick." Inside, the house smelled of coffee and cinnamon. A small Christmas tree sat in the corner of the living room. Family photos covered the walls, smiling faces, graduations, weddings. Everything Nathan had in his mansion were expensive paintings by artists he didn't even know. Grace sat at the table and spread out papers she had taken from her bag. "I started documenting 6 weeks ago," she said. "Dates, times, what Victoria put in your juice, when you started feeling sick. It all matches." Nathan picked up the sheets with trembling hands. Grace's handwriting was careful, precise. Each entry was a day he had almost died without knowing. "I also saved samples," Grace continued, showing 3 small labeled plastic bags. "Powder from her trash. If we test it, we'll know exactly what it is. Why didn't you tell me before? Grace looked at him without blinking. And would you have believed me? A black maid accusing the boss's wife of poisoning? You would have fired me before lunch. Nathan wanted to disagree, but he knew it was true. Lorraine brought coffee and sat with them. Grace told me everything. My nephew died the same way. Small doses, every day, until his body couldn't take it anymore. His girlfriend kept the life insurance. No one investigated. I'm sorry, Nathan said. Don't be sorry. Do something. Lorraine pointed at him. You have money, power, lawyers. Use that to expose these monsters. Grace's phone vibrated. She looked at the screen and her face tensed. It's my colleague. The one who works in the kitchen. She read the message aloud. Victoria is furious. She says Nathan disappeared. She's calling everyone, police, security, friends. Says he's confused and needs medical help. Nathan felt his blood freeze. She's building a narrative. Exactly, Grace said. If you show up now, she'll say you're having a nervous breakdown. She'll have you committed. And once inside. She didn't need to finish. Lorraine slammed her hand on the table. Then you need proof no one can contest. Nathan thought for a moment. Then his eyes lit up. My office at home. There's a safe behind the painting. Victoria doesn't know about it. Inside is a hard drive with backup recordings from all the security cameras. All of them, including the kitchen. Grace understood immediately. If she prepared the poison in the kitchen. It's all recorded, Nathan completed. Dates, times. Irrefutable proof. Lorraine shook her head. But you can't go back to that house. It would be suicide. Grace stood up. I can. I have the keys. I know the security guard schedules. And no one notices a maid walking through the hallways. Nathan grabbed her arm. No. It's too dangerous. Grace looked at his hand, then into his eyes. Mr. Reed, I spent 3 years being invisible in that house. Now, for the first time, that's going to be useful for something. Nathan slowly released her arm. He wanted to stop her, but he knew she was right. Grace was the only person who could get in and out without raising suspicion. I'm going with you, he said. To the gate. If something goes wrong. If something goes wrong, Grace interrupted, you run and tell the truth to the world. Because if we both die, Victoria wins. The silence that followed was heavy. Lorraine took a crucifix from the wall and placed it in Grace's hand. Go with God, child. Grace put it in her pocket. God and a good memory. That's all I need. Outside, fireworks were already starting to go off. New Year was approaching. Somewhere in Atlanta, Victoria Reed was preparing a toast to her husband's death. What she didn't know was that the maid she had never noticed was about to destroy all her plans. The Reed mansion glowed like a crystal palace. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Soft music escaped through the windows. Atlanta's most exclusive New Year's party was in full swing. Grace parked the old sedan 2 blocks away. Nathan wore a cap and a coat Lorraine had lent him, clothes he would never wear, perfect for making him unrecognizable. 20 minutes, Grace said. If I don't come back, you leave and call the FBI. Not local police. FBI. Grace. 20 minutes. She got out of the car and disappeared into the shadows. Nathan stayed alone, counting every second. Grace entered through the service door as she had for 3 years. The kitchen was chaotic, waiters preparing trays, champagne being opened, no one looking twice at the black woman in uniform. She climbed the back stairs. The second-floor hallway was empty. All the guests were in the main hall. Nathan's office was at the end of the corridor. Grace used the master key she had for emergencies. The door opened without a sound. The painting was where Nathan said, an abstract piece that cost more than she would earn in 10 years. Grace carefully removed it and found the safe. The combination Nathan had whispered in the car, 0-7-1-5. His mother's birthday. Victoria had never cared to know. The safe opened. Inside, documents, an antique watch, and the external hard drive. Grace grabbed it and put it in her apron pocket. As she turned to leave, the light came on. Daniel was at the door. "Well, well," he said, smiling. "The nosy little maid." Grace didn't move. Daniel took a step inside and closed the door. "Victoria said you were acting strange. I should have fired you weeks ago." "Why didn't you?" "Because you were useful. Invisible. No one notices the maid." He laughed. "But you noticed too much, didn't you?" Grace kept her voice steady. "I saw what you're doing to Mr. Reed." "And who's going to believe you?" Daniel stepped closer. "A cleaning lady against the Reed family? You have nothing." Grace thought about the hard drive in her pocket. Thought about Nathan waiting in the car. Thought about her brother, dead 5 years ago because no one believed her. "Maybe you're right," she said, lowering her eyes. Daniel relaxed. Fatal mistake. Grace moved fast. She grabbed a paperweight from the desk and struck Daniel's hand when he tried to grab her. He screamed. She ran. She flew down the stairs, her heart exploding in her chest. Voices shouted behind her. Heavy footsteps followed. She crossed the kitchen, knocked over a tray to slow whoever was chasing her, and exited through the service door. Nathan's sedan was already running, door open. "Get in," he shouted. Grace jumped inside. Nathan accelerated before the door closed. In the rearview mirror, Daniel appeared at the entrance, holding his injured hand, screaming words they couldn't hear. "Did you get it?" Nathan asked, eyes fixed on the road. Grace pulled the hard drive from her pocket. "I got it." Nathan let out a sigh that seemed to carry years of weight. Lorraine was waiting for them with Nurse Patricia, a friend who worked in a forensic lab. Within 2 hours, they confirmed, the powder was arsenic in doses calculated to kill slowly. "With this and the recordings," Patricia said, "you have a solid case." Nathan looked at Grace. "It's still not enough. Victoria will hire expensive lawyers. She'll drag this out for years. She'll say the video was edited." Grace thought for a moment. "Then we don't go to regular court." "What do you mean?" "The party is still going on, right? Hundreds of people, including journalists, politicians, important people." Grace smiled for the first time. What if the truth appeared to everyone at the same time? Nathan understood. The mansion's sound system. It's connected to all the TVs in the house. "And you still have remote access?" Nathan grabbed Lorraine's laptop. His fingers flew across the keyboard. "I do. Victoria never changed the passwords. She thought I was too stupid to notice anything." At 11:55 p.m., 5 minutes before midnight, Nathan pressed a key. In the Reed mansion, every screen, TVs, monitors, even phones connected to the Wi-Fi, began showing the same thing. Victoria in the kitchen, measuring white powder, putting it in the blender, smiling while preparing her husband's smoothie. Her voice, clear as crystal, "I doubled the dose today. 1 more week and it's over." The ballroom plunged into silence. Victoria was on stage, ready for the midnight toast, when she saw herself on the screen. Her face froze. The champagne glass fell from her hand and shattered on the floor. "This is a lie," she screamed. "It's edited." But the video continued. Daniel appeared beside her in the recording. "And the inheritance? 70 million. All ours, my love." Guests recoiled in horror. Phones recorded. Journalists' cameras focused on Victoria. Daniel tried to run, but 2 guests, former military, friends of Nathan, grabbed him. Sirens sounded outside. It wasn't local police. It was the FBI, alerted by Nathan an hour earlier with all the evidence. Victoria was handcuffed in the middle of her own party, red dress stained with champagne, makeup smeared by tears of rage. "Where is he?" she screamed. "Nathan. Coward." But Nathan wasn't there. He watched everything through the security camera, sitting in Lorraine's living room, next to Grace. "It's over," he whispered. Grace nodded. "It's over." 6 months later. The trial of Victoria and Daniel Reed dominated national news for weeks. The evidence was irrefutable: videos, toxicology reports, text messages planning every detail. Victoria was sentenced to 25 years. Daniel got 18. Leaving the courthouse, Victoria still tried to maintain her composure. "This is an injustice," she told the cameras, before being pushed into the patrol car. Nathan didn't watch. He had seen enough of that face. The Atlanta mansion was sold. Nathan couldn't walk those hallways anymore without tasting poison in his mouth. He bought a simple apartment in the city center. 2 bedrooms. A balcony with plants. No live-in staff. For the first time in decades, he made his own coffee. Grace continued working, but no longer as a maid. Nathan offered money, offered positions, offered everything he could think of. She refused every offer. "I didn't save you to get paid," she said. "I saved you because it was right." But Nathan insisted on one thing: paying for her college. Grace had dropped out of school at 19 to care for her sick mother. Then came her brother. Then came the bills. The dream of becoming a nurse was stored in a drawer, along with graduation photos she never took. At 34, Grace Mitchell enrolled at the University of Atlanta. Hair tied back, backpack on her shoulders, walking among students half her age. She felt ridiculous on the first day. Too old. Too tired. Out of place. But then she remembered the broom closet. Holding a billionaire's mouth in the dark. Running with a hard drive in her pocket while a man screamed behind her. If she survived that, she could survive any anatomy exam. 3 years later, Grace graduated with honors. Nathan was in the audience, not in a prominent seat, not in the front row. He sat in the back, wearing a cap, like any other guest. When Grace walked on stage to receive her diploma, she searched for his face in the crowd. Found it. He waved once, discreetly. She smiled. After the ceremony, they met in the parking lot. Grace was still wearing her gown. Nathan brought flowers, simple daisies, not expensive roses. "Congratulations, Nurse Mitchell," he said. Grace laughed. "Not yet. I still need to pass the licensing exam." "You'll pass." Nathan handed her the flowers. "You can achieve anything you decide to achieve." Grace held the daisies and was silent for a moment. "You know what's strange," she said. "When I worked at your house, I dreamed of being invisible. The less you noticed me, the safer my job was. I kept my head down, did my work, went home." She looked at him. "But being invisible almost killed me inside. Years pretending I had no opinions, no dreams, no voice." She took a deep breath. "You almost died because the wrong people were too close. I almost died because I distanced myself from myself." Nathan nodded slowly. "We almost died in different ways. But we survived together." Grace extended her hand. Not for a formal handshake, to hold his hand, like friends do. "Thank you," she said, "for finally seeing me." Nathan held her hand with both of his. "Thank you for saving me. In every sense." A year later, Grace worked in the emergency room of a public hospital in Atlanta. Long shifts, modest salary, patients who sometimes yelled at her. She loved every second. Nathan showed up from time to time. Not as a billionaire doing charity, as a friend bringing coffee. They talked about everything and nothing. About Grace's mother, who was finally stable. About Aunt Lorraine, who now cooked for hospital events. About Grace's brother, Marcus, whose name she tattooed on her wrist so she would never forget why she fought. On a December afternoon, almost 2 years after that New Year's Eve, a reporter approached Nathan on the street. "Mr. Reed, you rebuilt your life after the betrayal. What's the secret?" Nathan thought for a moment. "There's no secret," he said. "I just learned to pay attention to the right people. The ones who don't want anything from you, except for you to live well." "And the woman who saved you?" "Grace Mitchell." Nathan smiled. "She's too busy saving other people now. I just bring the coffee." The reporter insisted. "Do you stay in touch?" "Every Sunday," Nathan said. "Lunch at her aunt's house. I bring dessert. She complains it's too sweet. Aunt Lorraine makes me have seconds 3 times." He shrugged. "It's the closest thing to family I've had in years." That Sunday, like every other, Nathan parked his simple car in front of the small house with the well-kept garden. Grace opened the door before he knocked. "You brought pie again?" "Lorraine asked for it." "Lorraine wants to see you fat." "I know." Nathan walked in smiling. The table was set. Simple food, mismatched chairs, paper napkins. Nothing like the galas Nathan used to attend. It was perfect. As Lorraine served the food and Grace argued with her about seasoning, Nathan looked around that small living room full of photos and memories. He had lost $70 million in the forced divorce and legal battles. He had lost the mansion, the luxury cars, half the friends who only existed when he paid the bills. But sitting at that table, eating homemade beans with people who wanted nothing from him except his presence, Nathan Reed finally understood something no MBA had taught him. True wealth isn't in the bank. It's in who sits at your table when you have nothing left to offer. If this story of survival and true friendship touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to remember that real heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear aprons, and sometimes they just bring pie on Sunday. Tell me in the comments, who is the person who stood by your side when everyone else left? Because in the end, the best revenge against those who tried to destroy you is simply living well, surrounded by the right people.